Representatives of over 50 unions gathered in Boksburg on Saturday to discuss the establishment of a new labour federation. Now, it aims to represent the majority of the country's working class. The convener of South Africa's first ever workers' summit, Zwelinzima Vavi, says that workers need a new labour federation that is independent and not politically influenced. The unions also gathered on Sunday in Tembisa to celebrate May Day. Now, to unpack this story for us further in our studios, we're joined by Zwelinzima Vavi, the convener of the Workers' Summit. A very good morning to you, Mr. Vavi, and welcome.
Thank you very much for having us.
Now, you must be a very tired man. It was a whole week summit almost, and then, of course, the weekend, the celebrations.
To the contrary, I feel very fresh. This was an absolutely exciting weekend in the history of South African workers because we were making history. Never ever in the history of this country did we manage to get together over 50 unions, all of them agreeing about what should be the basic principles that should form unity. That should be the guiding light for unity of workers in our country. Independence from employers, independence in particular from government control, independent from political parties, but not apolitical. Yes. Democracy, bottom up, not shouted in the stadium, but practiced in the workplace. And worker control, not as a slogan, but as a living reality for workers. And socialist orientated, internationalist orientated, financially self-sufficient, fighting corruption within the trade unions, but also in society in general. We're quite excited about these principles that have been adopted by the Workers' Summit. 51 unions were in the May Day rally yesterday. Never happened in the history of this country. So we're marching forward now to look at what should be the logo of the new federation, what should be in the constitution, what should be the colors, and where should we have this meeting, and how many delegates should be there, and all of that. So we're marching forward, and this was absolutely exciting in the entire history of this country. We have not seen that before.
And the name of the new union?
I've heard so many suggestions. And in fact, workers must debate all of the suggestions. In the Workers' Summit, I see that some unions said it must be Professor, they say. Professor means Progressive Federation of South African Trade Unions. Other one says it must be DITAU,
yes,
the Democratic and Independent Trade Unions of South Africa. There will be lots of suggestions. All suggestions must speak to what we are seeking to achieve. We are just tired of sweetheart unionism. We are tired of unions that sleep in the same bed with the employers, and all that mouth democracy and practice bureaucratic control. We want to break away from that mode of trade unionism and embrace a unionism that is entirely about the interest of workers and society as a whole.
The new movement is not politically aligned at all. Will that be the trend throughout the life of this particular new federation?
If it can't clone COSATU, it can't repeat the same mistakes that led to the implosion and further division of workers. Because if you dare say a trade union movement must be allied to a particular political party, you are basically saying to South African workers, well, only those who are members of that preferred political parties must be members of this union. And the day when others says, but this is not working in the best interest of workers, you're going to have to repeat what COSATU did, i.e. to dismiss and slaughter hundreds and thousands of workers who don't agree with this alliance. And NUMSA didn't agree anymore with the alliance that COSATU created with the SABC and the ANC, and they were dismissed mainly for that. That became reason number one why 340,000, where have you heard that happening? 340,000 members dismissed. But to show you that they were making a mistake, that union that they dismissed have now grown to 378,000 members. They thought that waving flags of the past and the history, people will follow that. No, workers do not follow history, do not eat history. Workers follow the victories unions must score today so that they can be relevant tomorrow.
not a clone to COSATU, but you were going to be in opposition to COSATU.
We are not opposition to the COSATU, and that's why I don't like being said. We are not rivaling any union. What we are rivals of is the exploitation of workers by the capitalist system. That's what we are seeking to do, to organize and mobilize workers starting here at the SABC, in the ETV, in the informal sector, in the vulnerable sectors of the economy, to reach the 76%. The reason why more unions are more workers are finding unions not attractable is precisely because unions over the past 22 years were so preoccupied about the politics of the day. Who must go to parliament? When is the next local government elections? Who must be the mayor there? And nothing about how do we crush the labor brokering system? How do we end outsourcing? How do we take up the struggles for industrialization of our country? How do we create jobs for the 8.3 million South Africans? How to unite workers across the economy? And that's the challenge that we think that the unions must be facing. We were detracted by the politics of the palace politics. Not anymore. Workers have paid a heavy price. E-tolls are in place in Gauteng, and they are spread into Cape Town. Labor brokering in reality is in place. Workers are being outsourced left, right, and center. 60,000 workers are being retrenched as we speak. Yes. Unemployment, poverty, inequality, and corruption are deepening all the time. It's time to liberate workers.
Mr. Vavi, we run out of time, but just briefly, where to from here? You still got a lot of work to do to finalize and launch.
Not much. We've agreed on the main thing that should serve as a glue, which is the principles. The principles are now all agreed by 51 unions, and I can tell you this, more unions are knocking at our door to say we want to identify ourselves with an independent, fighting, militant trade union movement, and that we open the door to everybody and that believes in those principles. As I'm saying, we need now to move with speed to put together a constitution, a logo, colors, and all of that, and we will launch the federation before everybody realizes how time moves fast.
Yes. Mr. Vavi, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you very much.
That was Zwelinzima Vavi, the convener of the Workers' Summit, and we continue on that trend.